Hello, 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 and welcome to Library Schedules That Work. Not the ones that don't work, but the ones that do work, whether you're on flexible or on the block. I am loving, I almost feel like it's a librarian series. I was a school librarian and a teen librarian consultant for the public library. So anytime librarians are represented, anytime they get love, anytime, I'm just all about it. So I am loving this series by Miss Tanya and just yay, more and more and more. All right, so what do we have coming up? Well, who am I? I'm Dr. Desiree Alexander. Hello, everybody. I'm the founder, CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting, and these are all of the wonderful ways that you can contact me. Yay! All right, so what do we have coming up? Next weekend, we have finishing the year strong, ideas to boost student engagement. You know, we always want student engagement, but at the end of the year, everybody just gets tired. So how do we boost probably our engagement and student engagement? And then we have on May 11th, ready, set, record, getting started with video production projects in elementary school. Even if you're not an elementary school teacher, you know you can always learn and modify. So bring it, bring it, bring it. Then we have ISTE conference. So these are my sessions so far for the ISTE conference. I know there's one that I need to add to this, but they always grow and grow and grow. I love ISTE, so this is where it is right now, but we definitely have some more to add to that list. And then we have, who is this? Oh, that's our presenter today. She's coming on back for library collaboration, leadership, and mentoring. Then we have whole book approach with picture books. So how do we use picture books in all grade levels, not just, for elementary students? So love that, because I definitely did that in the classroom. And then we have Tanya coming back again with Level Up Career Moves in Librarianship, which I adore. So we're going to have that in October. And we always have our self-paced classes that Google certification test prep, SLLA. So if you're in a state where you have to take the educational leadership SLLA exam, we have test prep for that. Support time, if you ever need to talk to me about anything. So we always have our self-paced classes, always there waiting for you. And then if you want to teach a webinar, or if you want to have a certain topic of a webinar, this is how you say, hey, here are my ideas. So you just fill this out. All of these things can be found at edalex.net/events. So it's all in one spot for you to go register for everything and tell me what kind of webinars you want to see or do and all that good stuff. Whew. All right. So we are going to get started with library schedules that work. And if you know anything about librarians, you got to get your schedule straight before you do anything else. So how do we do that? I cannot wait for this topic. Let's get started.
Good morning, everybody. It is so good to be with you guys on this wonderful, beautiful Saturday. A-Leaf is in the house. Woo-hoo. I used to be in A-Leaf, one of my great districts. I love A-Leaf. There's a good family there, but thank you to everyone who joined us. I am so happy that you decided to spend part of your Saturday with us today. Thank you, Dr. Desiree. This is just a wonderful platform, and I'm so happy that you're allowing me to share some things that I've learned throughout my career. So the first thing I want to do is tell you a little bit about myself. So I am originally from Louisiana, and I received my bachelor's of arts in English education from Xavier University. Shout out to Xavier. From that, I went on. I moved to Texas eventually at some point. My husband had a job transfer, so we moved to Texas, and I decided to go back to school. And I received my master's in library information science from University of Houston Clear Lake. That was an excellent experience. They have an awesome program, so I'm thankful for that. Then I don't know if I lost my mind or whatever, but I even decided to go back to school again. But I wanted a different perspective, I think it was. So for some reason, I said, I'm going to go into a principal's program. They didn't really have anything for library leadership in a university setting. So the next best thing was the principal certification program. So I took some courses and completed my coursework at Lamar University. So I have that added to my what do you call it? My educational background. Another thing about me, I am a person of faith. I've always been a person of faith, and that's very important part of my life. So I go to church often. I'm active in my church. I'm a greeter at my church. I'm also part of the ladies ministry, and I'm part of the Sunday school department. Also, you see some pictures of my family there. My husband and I all have been married for 31 years. I'm a wife of an Air Force veteran, and some people say, how can you be married that long? It is really easy when your husband is your best friend. He is truly my best friend. We talk about everything, we have fun, and we have one son who you see there as well. We're very proud of him. He's a working man, he's single, and he's going to college. And so we're just really proud of him. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about this presentation. I am not the sage on the stage. I know some things, you know some things. So I consider this a learning community. We're here to share and learn together. So in the presentation, I've included some polls. So occasionally I'm going to ask you some questions about your experience with library schedules and how it works for you and how it works. So that's how we're going to proceed, okay? I will say this as well. This is my copyright notice. This presentation or parts thereof may not be reproduced. I'm moving my little thing in any form, stored in any retrieval system, or transmitted in any form by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopy, recording, or otherwise without prior written permission of the publisher, which is me, excerpt provided by the United States of America, copyright law. Now, as librarians, we all know and understand copyright and intellectual property. So I just hope, it is my hope that you honor that, and that's why I included it. So thank you very much. So let's get to it. So here's my first participant poll. As you read that to yourself, I'm going to define fix as when you actually, how shall I say this? When you actually, I'm sorry, I have something going on with my computer, sorry. Oops. When you actually, I don't know what I clicked, guys, sorry. I'm seeing the titles and that's kind of messing me up. Okay, so here we go. When you actually, your schedule, your library schedule is shown or fixed by the campus, right? The master schedule determines your library schedule. That's what I define as fixed. Flexible is you set up your class rotations and you use teacher input in order to do that. Or C is a combination, it's a little bit of both. D, if you're an LIS student or you might be looking for a position. I do know that some Spring Branch, if you're in Texas, is looking, and Pearland ISD are looking for librarians. So if you're interested and you're near those districts, you might want to check that out. So in the chat, if you can just drop an A, B, C, D, or E, what is your situation? How does your district use the library to enhance learning? And unfortunately, I can't see those chats, so.
I'm definitely looking. We have Rachel with A. So
A. Okay, thank you. All right, Rachel. I've been there, so I know how it is, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how I handle that, but I just wanted to get a little feedback from you guys of how your district uses the libraries to enhance student learning. And do you think it's effective? Do you think, like, because some districts have, or I say districts because I'm in Texas, but your organization may say all libraries are on the block or all libraries are flexible. So that's why I wanted to kind of know how your district uses the library to enhance learning.
So
And
we
then
have
this
some
state,
answers. We have it depends on the campus. We
okay.
have it's not used, and we have fixed in elementary, no library in middle, and flexible in high school.
Wow, right. flexible. High school is usually flexible. So yeah, we understand that because of that. And somebody said not used. We're experiencing that a lot here in Texas. One of our districts, unfortunately, has decided to do a totally different thing with the library, which makes us very sad. And there are a lot of people fighting to use the library the way it was intended to use the library, obviously. So there are a lot of advocates fighting for that. And my prayer is that eventually that they start doing the right thing by libraries. But that's important for your organization. And my take on that is you have rights as a librarian. You specialize, you decide to go to school, you may have a master's, or some states don't require a master's. Texas does, but other states may not. You may have a certificate, or just you've been teaching a while and you decide to go into the library. Whatever your case is, you have a choice of where you want to work. So whatever your district or wherever you are, hopefully will line up with what your belief is for the library, if that makes sense. All right, so thank you for sharing in that poll. So Dr. Alexander mentioned this before. Time is very important when you're thinking about the library. And I don't think a lot of people understand that unless you're in the library yourself. We're the teacher for the whole campus, right? We often say that the school is our whole classroom is the school, right? We have the library. So I often started planning months in advance. Like for April and May, I would start planning for next year. So it's really, really, really important for us to think ahead, because we see everybody in the school. And I mean, teachers see their students. They are responsible for 30 or 35, unfortunately, in some cases, especially at the high school level. But we see the whole school. So it is incumbent upon us to think ahead to make sure we're ready for that. So this is how I normally planned in May and April, or April and May. There was a lot of downtime due to STAR, and I would have to go into classrooms and be one of the test administrators. But I didn't mind that. That's okay. So I would scribble on paper thoughts that was having for going ahead for the next school year. I would think reflectively about what worked this school year and what didn't work. And then I would just start thinking. I would scribble this on paper. And of course, this wasn't while students were testing, so don't freak out. Testing was over. Testing was complete. I had read my directions. I had done all of that stuff. But in the school, or at least on my campus, we had to stay with the students until all students were finished testing, right? Even the small groups and all that stuff. So that could be a lot of wasted time. And I was like, no, I need to try to get ahead. So I would use that time after I turned in all my tests and all of that. I didn't break any rules because I need my certificate. But I would plan ahead. I would think about that kind of stuff and just trying to make things better. So the next one is really important. You need to prioritize your objectives. Choose the most important tasks that you will plan to accomplish for that year, or maybe for that 9 weeks, or maybe for that month. You need to chunk those big tasks because it can be very overwhelming, and you don't want to be overwhelmed. You've probably heard the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Now, I don't know why anybody's eating an elephant, okay? But sometimes it feels that way, right? You have to eat the elephant, but maybe you don't like elephant, right? Maybe you like gator, Louisiana girl. So you have to figure out how to fry that thing up and eat it, right? I hear gator is good. My husband had some last week and he was like, oh, this is tasty. I'm like, no, I'm not eating that. But in our figurative way, you might have to eat that elephant or eat that alligator sometimes. So we have to find ways, and prioritizing your objectives is very, very important. So, and the last thing is make a schedule, because if not, everything else is going to interfere and take away your time and your objectives, and you'll get nothing done I've experienced it. I'm sure you've experienced it as well. So make a plan, make sure you stick to it as much as possible. As librarians, we are instructional leaders on our campus, but it's incumbent upon us to make sure it's okay to be flexible, right? We want to be flexible. If your teacher needs this or your principal needs that, it's okay for us to be flexible. But also, if you see that you're getting way off of track of things you had planned, then you need to take note of that. You might need to reprioritize your goals and maybe, if possible, talk to your administrator or supervisor and say, hey, this is what I had planned, and consistently it's not been happening because of X, Y, Z, ABC. There's a way you can go to your principal and talk to them and say, hey, I'm concerned about this. And if you have those priorities in place and you've shared that with them ahead of time, hopefully they will be understanding of that. I have another one. Participant poll. Which do you prefer? Which do you prefer and why? Do you prefer the fixed schedule, or do you prefer the flexible schedule, or do you prefer a combination of them, or is there something that I may not be aware of? This is different from the first poll, which I asked about your organization and how the libraries in your organization have been used. So which one do you prefer as a librarian? Fixed, which is A, B, which is flexible, or C, which is a combination? Or D, maybe there's something I'm not aware of. All right, do we have anything in the chat? A, B, C, D is other. Anything?
We do have some coming up. It takes a second.
Okay.
We have A, because this ensures students get an opportunity to actually go.
Yeah. I actually was talking to one of my colleagues, and she said that in this district, this librarian was working really, really, really hard to get students back in the library. I know a lot has changed with COVID. I've never had a problem, but most of my experience was pre-COVID, but I've had a few years after COVID. But I've been very fortunate not to have a problem with getting students in the library. And that's one of the pros, I think, of having a fixed schedule, is because they're coming to you no matter what. You don't have to like jockey to get their attention. They're coming, right? So that's one of the pros. Excellent. Okay. I don't think there's anything else in the chat. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me and what I prefer. So I've been
I'm sorry, we do have something in the chat. That's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So combination, I love reading aloud to classes every week, but wish I had other spaces of time to conduct makerspace lessons, digital literacy, etc. I'm split between two schools, so it's 30 minutes, seven classes a day. Right now, anything outside of reading and checkouts that I want to do needs to be after school or during testing weeks in the classroom when the library is closed. And then we have another comment. Hello, I am not a librarian. I took this training to encourage my principal to try this. Our library situation now is a mess.
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to start with Dr. Desiree. Is there anything else? So that was it.
That was it.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna say this. Yeah, I feel you with the mess one. It's very, yeah, it's hard. All I can tell you is keep fighting the good fight. And I have some strategies that I'm gonna talk about. And if I don't answer your questions at the end, make sure that you ask if I don't answer. But yes, that can be very discouraging. I have a colleague right now that says she is like just tired. She's really tired. So I'm just trying to encourage her, but I feel you. It is very hard. Do what you need to do that you're happy and that you're making sure that those students are taken care of. The other person talked about or comment was about being between two different campuses. Oh my gosh. And having 7 classes a day, if I remember that correctly, that is hard. I did have, when I was on fixed, I had, I think, a 5 or 6 classes a day. But to me, that's still no match because I didn't travel from one campus to another. That was just in my campus, but that was hot and heavy, and that's a lot. So I feel you. So I'm hoping something I say will help you. So here's what I think most librarians prefer. I know I preferred it since I've been on a myriad of schedules. I've been both flexible and I've been fixed. I prefer flexible. I made my own schedule with the teacher's input. I've done it several ways. Like old fashioned, I would have a clipboard with a schedule that looks something like the screenshot that you see here. And teachers, it was blank. And teachers had to come in and just fill in their time. And then I would type it up and send it out to them. I've also had the same similar schedule, and I would let teachers fill it in their time. Here's the thing, when I sent it to teachers, some people would erase people's times, and there was a whole thing with that, sending out virtually. So I stopped doing the virtual one of sending out the schedule because unfortunately I couldn't trust everybody to not change the time because they needed it. Yet another time, the master schedule was given to me in advance, and I was able to just sit down and figure out the library schedule myself, which I really like that. But that's not always the case because depending on your campus, there's, sometimes there are last minute changes and ESL classes that need to be input. So the principal was dealing with all this stuff with the master schedule. So teachers didn't even know their schedule yet. And if teachers don't know their schedule, then I can't do a library schedule because they can't come to me during certain times because it might have been their tutoring time. And there's these whole types of constraints because of testing. So I had to get in where I fit in. And so always, no matter what schedule I was on, teachers usually had the last say because they wouldn't come to the library during their recess time or their lunch time. So I always got the teacher's last say. Here, what you see is my schedule. This was one of my last schedules, but I've had a myriad. But this is the one that worked best for me. So you see on the far left, I had times. I did increments of 30 minutes. Then you see Monday through Friday. I figured this out the last few years as a librarian. I would have makeup days because Mondays did not work. People always forgot their library days. So I stopped scheduling people on Mondays. I'm like, forget that. And Fridays, we would have pep rallies and different things like that. And I'm like, you know what? Forget Fridays. So I use those as makeup days because stuff always happened on my campus. And so those were my makeup days. That time allowed me to be the manager of the library to actually do librarian work or administrative work, like read the books, order books, genreify the books, all that kind of stuff, prep for my book club. I learned to love having Mondays and Fridays, quote unquote, off. I wasn't really off, but I did not see classes unless they had to make up that day. And then you see Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, teachers came regularly. That's not their real names. I took out their names. I just put the first letter of their last name. And then I also, you see that yellow spot where it says book selection and it has my district book procedures because of challenges. Oh my God. And everything that's going on in the media and everything that's going on, unfortunately, I know some school board members have been, they've taken a personal stance and they're doing all this stuff with libraries. So we had to study our book selection and know and be up on that. So I needed time for that. So I scheduled that in my day. Now, did that always happen in that yellow section? Of course not, but at least I had it there. So administrators, teachers, everybody knew, because there's this false notion that if I don't have students in class, in the library, I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting there reading books or just chilling, enjoying my life. I am not. So although it may not have happened like that, I wasn't able to work on book selection and different things like that. At least I tried. I put an effort to it. My lunchtime, I started scheduling that just like that, just so people can know I need to eat too. You don't want Miss Haynes to get hangry. So I would have that. Also, you would see, I think that's fourth grade PLC time was 12:30 to 1:30. And fourth grade, another fourth grade PLC and another fourth grade. So I tried to go to ELAR, I tried to go to science, and I tried to go to math. It was in the schedule. It didn't happen all the time, but I at least tried. And teachers, they liked that when I was able to go into their PLC and they would ask me questions about resources. It really, really, really worked out well. So having a flexible schedule to me allowed me to be both teacher and a librarian of resources to manage things. Also, you see on the fall dates and the spring dates, because teachers have a lot on their plate. Like if you say, oh, you come every other week, teachers, they're not going to remember what every other week is. I learned that after many years. So I started putting the dates on there. So I would look at using the district calendar or your organizational calendar, and I would literally do an A week, B week, and that way I knew and I could tell them what every other week was. And teachers seemed to appreciate that. When I went in classrooms, I would see this by their desk. Like they would have it in their teacher desk in their corner, wherever their stuff is by their bulletin board for them, so they would know. Another thing that I enjoyed about the flexible schedule is being the master of the mini lesson. You know, I enjoy having the students the whole time. You can get, I think, more done when you have them the whole time, but if not, you have to just get it where you are. So book talking as a teacher was a really big thing for me, especially with the older grades, making sure I'm book talking books. I taught at campuses that had a lot of quote unquote, they call it reluctant readers, but I say growing readers. So I had to talk about books and be fun and exciting and show that kind of thing. But you have to become the master of the mini lesson in order to on this flexible schedule, because you run out of time. And I heard someone say in the on one of the polls that they didn't have time for makerspace. That's one of the things that on this type of schedule, I struggle with getting maker spaces in, and that's a big trending movement in the library world. But this was hard because by the time you pull out all the stuff, it was just hard to like put it all back, have the kids have enough time to do the actual activity. So I didn't even, I didn't have time for that, not in 30 minutes. But anyway. All right, let's go on to the next one. Here's another poll, and I think many people answered this already. Which schedule are you on now? So if you didn't answer that, you can answer that now. But if not, does anybody want to say anything about any comments of anything that I've said so far about the librarian's choice? This is your time to put it in right now if you
We
have
do have a
something in the chat.
comment.
Okay.
The hardest part for me is that admin gives me no library admin time at all, only 40 minutes, which barely covers book collection, check-in, late reports, and shelving. Any advice?
Okay, yeah. I would say, because in that instance, you're being treated like a teacher and you need more time because you have to shelve books. Even when I had books when I had helpers, it was still hard to get it all done, book orders. And now that you have to really scrutinize the book and read not the whole book, but you have to look at professional reviews. That 40 minutes is not a whole lot of time. So I would recommend going to your principal and talking to him or her. Let them know that this is not happening. Now, with that said, you have to be a little proactive with that. You can't say, I don't have enough time, because principals don't want to hear that, right? You need to show them, you need to provide evidence for them about why you need more time. So if you have yearly goals, if you have 9 weeks goals or monthly goals, when you go to talk to your principal, show them the goals. Have it on paper. If you're not a person that likes to talk, or you might forget, that's me. I have to have everything written down. Say, hey, these are my goals for this 9 weeks. These are my goals for this month. I need some more time. The 40 minutes isn't a lot, especially if your campus is like with all the book bans and censorships. I really need to be on top of my orders and making sure everything is straight. If your district has a policy, you need to show them that. Tell them that. Like, you need to be able to show and tell them, because they need some evidence, because principals are like, they have a lot on their plate too. So that's what I would recommend. I hope that help you. Try it and let me know. Okay. I'm going to go to the next slide, and I think I clicked it. Here we go. So here's a lot of times principal choices. Principals have the right and the vision to use the library as he or she sees fit. But the librarian, media specialist, or whatever your title is, when I was in one district, it was library information specialist. Like, we know all the titles, we love all the titles. You have the power to influence, okay? So it's your choice whether you use that power or not. One of the books that I recommend is How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you have not read that book, you might want to check it out. It's a very old book, but I recommend it. Now, if you're not trying to get your principal on the friend level, but you do need to be able to influence your principal. My pastor says it this way: the husband is the head of the household and the wife is the neck, right? What does that mean? That means, yes, the principal is the head of the school. The principal has all of this information about the school and teachers and district initiatives that you may not be aware of, but you are the library expert. You are the manager of the library. So there are some things that your principal does not know about a modern or contemporary library. So you need to speak your truth, okay? And you need to do it with facts and research, and actions speak louder. So if your principal, often my principal was like, dang, I didn't think, because many of the libraries I inherited were a hot mess, like a hot mess. And I know my principal was like, I didn't think you could do what you did in your first year. Like, she was like, because I went in there, I had goals, I had objectives. I was like, I got to get this done. And I did. And it was a lot, guys. I would go home exhausted, like exhausted. Like, I know, I understand, but you have to be able to use your voice. You have the power to put ideas in your principal's head that he or she may not have thought of before. And it may not necessarily mean that they're going to actually do it, but at least you put ideas in their head. And if your actions are speaking, like you're moving mountains, right? You're really doing the thing. Then if your actions are speaking, then your principal, whoever is in charge, will eventually one day be more inclined to listen to what you're doing and to kind of go along with you. I often didn't get everything I wanted. I'm not going to lie to you and say I got everything I wanted. But when I went to my principal and say, hey, what about this? They pretty much gave me stuff because they saw what I was doing. Okay. Most of my career, I was on a flexible schedule, and I think that's why I preferred it. But one school I was at, my first year at that particular school, I had a combination. Like for second grade, they were coming in every day because we had like 6 classes of second graders. And so I needed to be on that rotation with the PE and the art and the music. But funny enough, they said, this is not working. So after that, they took the library off the block. I was like, thank you, Jesus, because I wasn't getting my other library stuff done. So that worked out that year. The very next year, we had an overload again. Oh, actually, yeah, we had an overload. So I was put on the block, and I started the year out as a flexible. And then I think it was February. I was thrown, literally thrown. The principal called me into the office like on a Friday and said, okay, Miss Haynes, you need to start Monday with being on the block. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm a planner, I'm an organizer. So I'm like, I can't, like, what? Like, I had a weekend to prepare for students coming in 6 classes every single day. Luckily for me, I'm thankful to God that the head of the block, which was our PE coach, spoke up for me. He said, no, let's give her a week. And so I had a week to change my whole library model. And I did. The first thing I did was call one of my library colleagues, because I had not been a elementary librarian per se for that long. I've done fifth and sixth grade, but I had not been an official like pre-K to K librarian. So I called for help. So you need to solicit help if you're on the specials rotation, because you are only one person and you're going to burn yourself out, and we need you. The kids need you. I've talked to librarians who are like, this is not it, I'm out. I mean, good librarians, because they're being burned out of what's happening. So please, please, please solicit help. I am not ashamed. I am not perfect. I will ask you for help in a hot minute, okay? But when you ask for help, you need to be specific. Just like you speak your truth with research to your principal, if you're asking your block team or someone to help you, you need to be specific. Like, we all love prayers. We all love, all of that. I need more than your prayer right here, okay? I need some hands on. I need some help. So anyway, I called my librarian colleague. She told me some things, and I was like, okay, got it. Good. Ask your elective team. I'm a planner by nature, so I used that week that I had to get ready for the kiddos to plan as many activities as possible. And here's what I did. I leaned heavily into maker spaces. Before, when I was on flexible schedule, it was hard, like I said, pulling out the activities in order to do them in a 30-minute block and then put them back up and get organized for the next grade level that was coming in. Trust me, I understand. I know it's like impossible, but I used that week maker spaces ready. Like, I didn't have shelving free in my library, but if you have free shelving in your library, you might want to just say, hey, this is my maker space section, get you some buckets. That's what I did. I had a cart, and it had the red, I want to say it was Lakeshore or some cart that I rolled out. And this was my cart. I put certain activities. I had them named like technology activities, Play-Doh, Legos, all of that. I had all my buckets labeled once I started the flexible schedule. You see here on the screen, I know it's tiny, sorry, but this was what I did, because I had first graders, kindergartens, and second grade back to back to back. So, and teachers, like, that's their conference time. They're not staying to help you, especially you got to learn all the kids' names, and I'm not really good with names, so, and that helps with discipline and classroom management. So it was a lot. So this is what I ended up with. You can see my 8:35 to, I think that's really small, but I think that's 9 something. And then I had 9:30 a.m. to 9:40. So this is when I saw the classes. And initially I had all of this on a separate page, and I had to flip because I had my clipboard right there for my reading. And I'm like, oh, this isn't working. So I made them combine. And at the top, you see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I had, whatever teacher, I took their names out. So that was my first grade. And I color coded it so I can remember the teachers' names. And then my kindergarten teachers I had in a red. And then my second grade teachers, that was still the largest class in my school, I would have them in a green. And then you could see I had to, this is part of that organization piece. Sit them up. They had to have dots on the carpet. Then I would read the story to them. That would be the first 10 minutes. And then the next 10 minutes, especially for the younger grades, we had to have a brain break. Let's move. Then I had an activity, whether it's drawing or writing or doing something, working in a team with their story, what we read. And then building makerspace or craft makerspace or writing makerspace. So I would do one of those, not all of them, but one of those. I tried to do all of them, but time ran out, even when I had like 40 minutes, because you have to account for lining up the little ones and they're squiggly and moving around and all that. And then we checked out books, and that was the whole thing. So that's how my schedule looked when I went to the block. So hopefully that will help you. All right, so here's another participant poll. What's a guiding principle that helps you refocus, especially during those particularly busy times and you're being pulled everywhere? Is it a motto or a saying or something that you do to become inspired? What is a guiding principle that you may have? Or maybe it's a resource that you look to, like, I need something that's gonna woo, because this is woo, it's a lot. Anything in the chat?
Not yet.
Okay.
So one person says, I focus outside myself on the kids and the teachers. What do they need?
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you for sharing. And that's exactly what I did. And I'll tell you more about that in a second. So here's the thing. We have to have a literacy mindset. So here's what I thought of for the flexible schedule pros. And I started to put cons, but then I said my literacy mindset has to just focus on the pros. So one thing was that students always, always, always need to learn more. Their learning is going to improve. And so if they're on, whether they're fixed or flexible, the teacher collaboration is the thing that really, to me, helps, because you're working with the teacher. You're trying to make sure they get what they need, right? You're the supporter of the curriculum. According to brain research presented by Miguel Gulen, extreme stress impedes learning, and managing stress levels and fostering comfort gives students motivation for learning. Students and teachers are under a lot of stress, and we need to help them. We need to make sure that they're okay, and that's all part of our literacy mindset. And so this is where the library can play a pivotal role. Yes, you do get more reading time. You can be more focused on digital literacy with the flexible schedule. So if you want to be on the flexible schedule, remember, you need to speak up. You need to voice your opinion and do it with research, not just because I want to be on it, okay? In the resource guide that Dr. Alexander shared with you, there are some blog articles that tell you about other people and whether they have flexible schedules and how they were able to do it. I remember one of the articles, the librarian said she did some action research. She said, hey, she went to her teachers. She said, hey, this is what I'd like to do, and this is what I want to do. And so her and her teachers formed this collaboration, this partnership. And when she went and they did it, they performed what they were doing, and it worked out great. The teachers loved it. The kids loved it. She used that information and she went to her principals and said, look, this is what we did. You have videos, you have pictures, whatever your evidence is, show it to your principal. That's going to help. Remember, it may not help immediately, but it will help in the long term when they see that. This is that influence piece that I talked about, okay? All right. The next one is literacy mindset. If you're on the specials or ancillary or block, there are pros to that. It builds excitement. Like when I was on flexible schedule, students were always asking me, why didn't we come to the library every day? I want to come every day. Well, now they have their wish. They came every day to the library. And so that was exciting, and they were excited. Now, I will tell you this. I don't know if they were just trying to get out their classroom, right? But that's okay if they were trying to get out, because the brain research says, you can't really learn if you're really stressed out. So if you're coming to the library to think, okay, I need some load off, I'm okay with that, right? Because a lot of times, because of state testing, it's a lot. So if they wanted to get out of class, the pressures of the curriculum, I'm okay with that. The library is often considered a little more fun. I didn't talk about TEKS. I didn't talk about testing. They hear that all the time. Students hear that all the time. But I always had fun learning activities, and a lot of times it's promoting the freedom of discovery and the freedom of learning. And so a lot of times they didn't even realize they were learning, but they were. So another thing with this literacy mindset is that school-wide library integration is possible, and the perspective is everything. Like every day I would sit there during story time, or when I had kids running around the library, or little Johnny that was like, okay, he's little Johnny, that's the one. I was like, okay, these kids need that. It's going to be okay. I would go home, I would do my walk, I would eat. I'm a sweets person, right? So, but my mind changed. I saw what the library on the block schedule meant for the students. They were excited, they were enjoying it. And so it changed me, right? And I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. So I think it's about your mindset. So think about that as well. All right. So I talked a little bit before about the guiding principle. Manage your time. Whatever time you're given, look at it creatively, look at it purposefully, remind yourself of your objectives, plan, prepare ahead of events. You have a choice to influence your principal. No matter you're on the block, you're fixed, you're a combination. Our goal is to help our students become literate members of a global world, and you can affect that in a way positive way. So my guiding principle was, you can see it here. I don't know if you remember from my previous slide, but I had it on my schedule. I had a motto, whatever you want, a creed, whatever you want to call it. It was guiding lives, leading students, learning together. So every day I walked in that library, that's what's going through my head. I don't know everything. These kids are teaching me a lot. We're learning together, but I am the leader of these students. And our kids are going through a lot. Like, I had kids that parents had died, like issues, like the same issues that are in our society are in our classrooms and are in our libraries, right? So this was my motto. As you can see from my picture, I actually put it on a t-shirt and I wore it to the library whenever I needed to wear it. We had t-shirt Fridays and everybody's wearing school shirts. Forget my school shirt. I'm wearing my shirt with my motto because y'all don't know what I'm going through, right? So whatever you have to do, put it on a mug, preach it, like whatever. Like find what works for you and preach it. Sometimes you have to preach it to other people. Teach it, whatever you prefer. But I have to a lot of times preach it, teach it to myself and remind myself of it. That was my guiding principle. So as you can see, it was right here on my schedule. So I had to look at that every single day. Now this is what I call, because we have a little bit of time left. I'm rushing now. This I call my Spotlight Saturday. So this organization, I don't know if you're familiar with it, TCEA is excellent. Texas Computer Education Association, but everybody just says TCEA. They have upcoming conferences June 9th through the June 11th. It's in elementary. It's in Galveston. There are a fee for both of these, but they are well worth it. If you're not, Dr. Alexander mentioned ITSE. If you're not able to go to ITSE and you're going to be in your state, June 25th through June 27th, there's a Librarians virtual conference sponsored by TCEA. There is a fee associated with it, but it is jam-packed with some good learning. I love TCEA because their motto or their vision statement is learning without limits. Learning without limits. Hey, that's perfect for the library as an institution. That's what we envision as librarians, right? They're limited in the classroom. Classroom curriculum has its place, but in the library, there are no limits. So I wanted to share that with you. Hopefully you can look into that. The library is a department or an area of the school that is a force for the greater good. So let's use it that way, and maybe this organization can help you. Another thing that is free, yay, free. We love free stuff, right? The TCEA blog has a wonderful resource that you can sign up for. It's this one was April the 4th, but it's still up there. It's Canva templates for librarians. A lot of my librarian colleagues use Canva. I use Canva. I love Canva. So there are a lot of templates on there. Library Day reminders is an excellent template. You know, teachers have a lot on them, so they sometimes forget their library day. Even though Ms. Haynes would give them that nice color-coded schedule, they would still forget. So there's a template right there. That's a link, but I don't have time to click for links. That you can print out, laminate for them, and just have that day for so they can put that up, okay? Or sometimes their administrator or somebody comes looking for the class, they can post that on the door to let whoever is coming to look for them know they're in the library right now. There's another template in that blog called Not Library Newsletters. Another thing that I really used to do as a librarian was create a monthly newsletter, quarterly newsletter, whatever works for you, because I know time is of the essence. But this little template is really short and sweet. It has like 3 or 4 boxes. You can put a sentence or two, put your circulation numbers in, just let people know that the library is here, right? I talked about also my writing makerspace. Sometimes those babies couldn't write, especially the younger ones. So my writing makerspace was coloring, right? Everybody loves to color. We got some crayons for the kindergarten, second graders. Even the big kids like to color. So we would color in the writing makerspace. This particular link has a bunch of coloring pages. There are bookmarks, there's scavenger hunts. So I invite you to go to this blog. I included this information and my previous information on a second resource page. So Dr. Alexander gave you resource page 1, but I had to, because I kept finding stuff, right? So anyway, I made a second resource page, so I have all of this information on the second resource page, okay? If you are interested in the second resource page, please, please, please go to my website and sign up to know when my blogs come out, and then I'll shoot you this second resource page, okay? And, okay, ooh, Lord, 2 minutes. Okay, so this is what the second resource page looks like, much like the first, but I said there are additional resource pages right here. It has free school library resources on it, school library planners. Remember, this all goes in line with making sure you are on it as far as being organized and scheduling things. Demco has a planner. I don't know if anybody follows Christina. I forgot her last name. It starts with an H, but she is a very famous librarian, and she and Demco have this planner. The planner is out for 2004, 2005. She has tips and tricks in the planner. I don't have time to click on this link, but this is on my second resource page if you're interested. Also, AASL has a position. The American Association of School Librarians has a position statement for how the library should be used. If you need to influence your principal and advocate for the library and what you would like to see according to your library vision, you should be very familiar with this statement. And I have it linked on the second, this is on the first resource page. So make sure you click that link, share that with your principal. Okay, I'm rushing, I'm sorry. Okay, so it's 11:59. These are ways you can contact me. If you want to just like, hey, I really enjoyed that. Thanks for the encouragement, comments, questions. You can contact me at my website, www.librarian.com. There's my email right there. Also, you can follow me. You can follow me on Instagram. I am on Twitter. I love that Dr. Alexander said Twitter because I'm in silent protest. I don't call it the other thing. I call it Twitter. But I also have a LinkedIn page that's File Librarian Consulting LLC. I have a Facebook page that's File Librarian Consulting LLC. I have resources that I put on there every week. So you're welcome to look and see if any of those resources can help you. There are different books and websites. Linktree is also available. And I also have a Librarians Facebook group if you would like to join that. So, all right, it's 12 o'clock, I think. So I don't know if you have time for questions, but I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Alexander. Thank you so much for coming today, guys. You guys are awesome. Keep walking the walk and talking the talk.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I think it was really helpful to not only understand the different types of schedules and how they can actually be implemented, but hearing the stories too, to understand kind of your experience with them was extremely helpful. So thank you so much.
Thank you.